Hey up, it's that old Yorkshire geek here. I know I'm a bit early. I know. I did set the stream to start at 8 p.m, but I'm a bit early. But what the heck? Who cares? Right. So this is my review of Star Trek: Strange New Worlds, Season 1, Episode 3, just Ghosts of Illyria. And it's another good episode. I enjoyed it. Not exactly original, but none of them are. Star Trek does tend to repeat itself a bit. A lot of sci-fi shows do. That's not an excuse. But I did enjoy it. It wasn't perfect, and the end. A bit of a what do you call it? A cop-out ending. No, a bit of a what's the word I'm thinking of? I don't know. We'll see when we get to it. Right. So we'll crack on. As we say, let me just get the episode up. Spladoosh. There we go. That's right. So we start off with the where is it? There it is. The logo, Star Trek, the Star Trek cinematic TV universe. As I've said before, I think they're going to redo the original series, reimagine the original series. That's what I think they're going to do. Anyway, so it's the episode starts. There we go, and we have for some reason they keep doing it previously on Star Trek: Strange New Worlds. I've no idea why. They just keep doing it, even though it's episodic and it's got no connection to the previous episodes. The main story, obviously the character interactions and what we know about the characters, continues over. But it doesn't mention any of that in the previously on. Well, not that I noticed. To be honest, I wasn't really paying attention. Anyway, so we start off. We're at this planet. I forgot what it's called. I can't remember what it's actually called. Does it say on? Let's have a look. Hang on, we're showing the. See, I'm trying to find. I've got the video there, and it's anyway. We're at this planet, and there's an ion storm. I'm not exactly sure if that's what an ion storm looks like, or if it would look like that moving over, engulfing a planet. I don't know, but it's a cool effect, I suppose. We hear from Una. She does her personal log, and we see that the Enterprise has arrived at this planet. Wish I could remember what it was called. No notes as usual. I'm an idiot, I know. But what the heck. So they've arrived. They've got a landing party down on the planet. They're trying to find out what happened to these colonists. There were some colonists there called Illyrians. And I think the gist of it was that they were humans. So they were originally from Earth. But they started doing genetic modifications. They came out and set up a colony. But then they started doing genetic modifications on themselves, which went against Federation policy. So they became outcasts. The Federation shunned them. You wouldn't think the Federation would do that, would you? But apparently they did. They shunned them, and but they've come to this planet to see what happened to them. Then they haven't heard from them for a while. Well, they haven't heard from them for a while because we find out what's happened to them. So they've gone down to this planet with this ion storm, and they're at this facility, and they decide, Captain Pike decides he's down on the landing party, by the way, which is good to see. Right, there we go. There he is, the cool away team jackets. He's there with number one. And it's actually a number one episode, is this? Not number one as in, yay, number one. I mean, it's an Una episode. And they decide to beam back up before the storm hits, properly. So they go and, tell the teams to pack up, we're beaming up. But they can't find Spock. For some reason, he's sodded off. So Pike says he'll go find him, and she's to get the people back home. That's what Pike says. Get them back home to the Enterprise. This is it Crew? I don't know if it's Crewman Lance or Lieutenant Lance. I can't remember, but his name's Lance. And is he transgender? I don't know. Or are they transgender? I don't know. They seem a bit. I'm not sure. I'm sorry, but anyway, but it doesn't. That's not germane to the story. We see him there, and we see him later on. I don't know what all these glass bottles, are supposed to mean. It has no bearing on the story. Maybe it's just a visual reference for what went on, genetic modifications, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde sort of stuff. Even though it's not that sort of story. So they all beam up eventually. They have trouble. There we go. She said, Landy Party ready to beam up, and Mr. Kyle has trouble. The ion storm is playing havoc with their targeting sensors. He needs more power, so he gets through to Chief Hemmer in the engine room. There he is. He says, "Need more power." So basically, Hemmer diverts power from the ship, from the rest of the ship, to the transporter systems to give it more power. So you see the lights flickering across the ship. And there we go, they're going to see it there. And are you ready? Oh, I must have missed it. Whatever. We see the lights flickering. And it gives the transporter enough oomph. Oh, there's another piece. That's scary, isn't it? Gives the transporter enough oomph to beam up the landing party. Do we see that? Do I have a... Yeah, we see. Hang on. I've gone a bit too far as usual. See, we're seeing him doing his stuff there. Come on, beam him up then. Bloody hell. Oh, for crying out loud. That's trouble with using these videos. Come on, beam. Beam. I want to see them beam. For crying out loud. There we go. He's beamed them up. But that's all I wanted to do. There we go. Beam. And it was quite a quick beam as well. Must be because there were more power. Sort of like went, and they were there. Usually takes quite a while, doesn't it, in these transporters in the 23rd century. But anyway, he got him. But then he can't lock on to Pike and Spock because the storm's too close now. Don't know why they didn't send a shuttle. Couldn't they send a shuttle down for them? Shuttlecraft, don't know. Never even mentioned that. But so they said to Pike and Spock they can just get through to him on the communicator. Tell him to find somewhere safe and basically wait the storm out. So that's what they do. See that's what they're all saying. Oh, this looks a bit sunburnt there, doesn't she? Does Una? The lovely Rebecca Romaine. It's not the best view you're seeing there, is it? Because of me things on the screen, but whatever. Oh, and then we get to the opening titles. They're still not putting the flaming Enterprise episode title. They should. I wish they would. I wish they'd put the episode title on. When it's all done and dusted, and then the episode starts. They should stick the episode title. Can you see my mouse pointer? Yeah. So like up there, it should say the Ghosts of Illyria up there in quotes. It should come on like it used to do in old days of Star Trek. Anyway, there's Una. She's in turbo lift, heading for the bridge. When I say bridge, obviously I mean bridge. What's happened there? There we go. That was a weird thing that happened there, wasn't it? Go on, get to the bridge. There she arrives on the bridge, and she basically tells everybody that Pike and Spock are stuck on the planet until the storm passes. Communications is out now. She tells Uhura to find a way to, get in touch with them. I don't know. For some reason, I think Uhura's the de facto head of communications. I don't know why. She's a cadet. There should be a proper officer there, supervising her, really, shouldn't there? I know she's a prodigy and all that, and she's amazing, but there should really be an officer there supervising her, shouldn't there? The communications officer, but, whatever. Next. Right. No, we're still doing that. So, then we see, you can't see that, but, let's move it along a bit, and then you'll see her. There she goes. Oh, never mind. Lieutenant Ortegas, the helmsman, she comes across this lance I don't know if it's Lieutenant Lance or Crewman Lance. Can you see him? Yeah, I'll move him over a bit. Can I? There he is, look. There he is. And he's stood looking, or standing, looking, or they are standing looking at this, a display of some sort, a panel with some light coming out of it. And they say, I'm not sure if it's because I don't want to like upset people, with my ignorance, but I'm not sure if they're supposed to be, a non-binary person, but whatever. Anyway, they are saying, they want more light. They need to feel the light. And Ortega says, what are you on about? Are you being daft? And then they bash the head through the panel, draw blood. Ortega drags them off and takes them to sick bay. Then we cut to Eunice. She's in her quarters. She sees the light and she wants to, absorb the light, a bit like Lance just did. But weird stuff happens with her. Oh, for God's sake. There we go. As you'll see, is it going to do it now? Oh, no, it didn't. I've missed it again. Oh, damn useless. There we go. We'll see it now. You ready? She goes all weird and glowy. You ready? Go on, glow then, woman. No, she ain't doing it now. Oh, I must have missed it again. Come on, do it. Or is it later on? It might be later on, actually. It could be later on. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think it's later on. Anyway, whatever. She's obviously got the urge to absorb the light, and then she gets a call from sick bay. Oh, here we go. I've just seen. Oh, there, look. See, she rips her top. Look, I thought, oh, crikey. I thought, oh, matron. There she goes all glowy. I'm thinking, oh, what's going on here with number one? She's all glowy. Is she turning into Mystique? Hey. But there you go. She goes all glowy, and then she's fine. Then she talks to sick bay, and she asks Dr. Mabenga if there's any problems with the landing party, and then he says they've got several members of the landing party in the sick bay. So she heads that way, changing her top beforehand, which is wise. Right, so it's good to get to sick bay. We find all the crew that were on the landing party, they've sort of come down with this impulse to get as much light as possible, and they don't know why. They talk about the biofilters in the transporter, and they said the biofilter should have filtered out any germs or viruses or whatever that could cause this sort of illness. And they said, well, what if it's an unknown one? And they said, well, if you don't recognise it, it filters it out anyway. How can it filter out something it doesn't recognise? I don't know. That sounds a bit strange to me, but anyway. So I've got it playing, haven't I? We're supposed to be doing still images, and I've got it playing. See, that's copyright strike. That's going to happen. Never mind. So anyway, so they do all this stuff, and by the way, she lies to him. She tells him that she's okay, that she's not had any problems, and she's hunky-dory, even though we've just seen her go all glowy. But all will be revealed later on in the episode as to why she went all glowy. So she goes to engineering, she talks to Hemmer, and they've got to figure out, why the transporter didn't filter out, this whatever's made the landing party ill. And he says, well, he'll have to do a level 5 diagnostic on all the ship's systems, and it could take all night. So she says, whatever, fair enough, get on with it, basically. She seems a little bit stressed, I must admit, but she's a bit sharp with him. But he don't care because he's sharp back, because it's Hemmer, because he's big gruff is Hemmer. I quite like him, I must admit. And they call him Chief Hemmer, but I keep not looking at his. Is he a chief, as in chief petty officer, or is he just chief because he's the chief engineer and he's got a proper rank like, you know, commander or lieutenant commander? I don't know. I haven't noticed and I haven't looked it up because I don't do my research. Anyway, so she leaves him to it. And let's see, we are back on the massive bridge of the Enterprise with its huge window. God, I hate them windows, but why can't it be a view screen? Hey. Then what happens? I can't actually remember. This isn't triggering any memories. Oh, yes, she gets through to Pike, and she tells him well, she starts telling him what's going on. The landing party are ill. And they're trying to work it out, but then he says, well, they've got to safety. They're in the archives or library, whatever he calls it. And they think they'll be okay till the iron storm passes. And then they get cut off. And she says to Uhura, Uhura says, sorry, comms is down again. So Uhura heads back to her quarters. Not Uhura, what am I talking about? Number one heads back to her quarters. There we go. And La'an Noonien Singh comes in. By the way, in the recap, she says, my name is La'an Noonien, and she misses out the Singh bit for some reason. I don't know if she did that in the pilot episode when we first met her. I'm sure she said La'an Noonien Singh, but for some reason in the recap she just said La'an Noonien. Not that it's important. Anyway, they have a little chat, and they talk about the Illyrians and their, genetic tampering with themselves, and how it's against the Federation law, basically. And they actually talk for the first time about La'an's ancestor, Khan Noonien Singh. She talks about how she grew up because she had that, infamous ancestor, and she got picked on. She got called an augment. They use that word augment, which we saw in Enterprise. She got bullied for it. So she hates augments. She hates people that are genetically engineered because it's been the bane of her life. And obviously there's that comes back into play later on in the episode. But yeah, it was interesting to hear the word augments. But you'd think, wouldn't you, if she were her family was the Noonien Singhs, you'd have thought they'd have changed the name, wouldn't you? I mean, I bet a lot of Hitlers changed their names, didn't they? After the war, Second World War, you don't come across many Hitlers now, do you? So I bet they changed the names. You'd have thought she would have done that, but she didn't. And I still don't understand why they have to do that. Why they have to have a Noonien Singh. Does Spock lose his memory? I don't know. Something must happen between now. But then again, as I said, I think they're reimagining the original series, so maybe it'll come back around. As somebody pointed out in the comments of one of my other videos, my Picard one, it's just a reboot. Anyway, so they have their little chat. She's not happy about the Illyrians. But we've got to remember that these two are friends. Remember in the pilot episode we learned that La'an's family were slaughtered by the Gorn, and she were set adrift in the life pod, the life raft. And it was number one that rescued her, and that's why she joined Starfleet. Because of number one, because Starfleet saved her. And we found that they are friends, and they've been friends for a long time. So there you go. Which makes what happens later a little bit more tragic. But anyway, right. So number one goes back to sick bay, and I can't remember what happens. But there's more problems. People are getting iller. The storm's getting worse. And it seems that it's spreading. the disease, the illness that's causing them to want to, get as much light as possible. It's spreading. So it's not just the landing party now, it's spreading throughout the ship. So, number one issues a lockdown of the ship. So all non-essential personnel, I don't know how many non-essential personnel there are on a Constitution class ship. I mean, it's not exactly a Galaxy class with families on, is it? You'd think everybody pretty much is essential. But it's all non-essential personnel have to, stick confined to quarters, and all people on duty, have to do somewhat, I don't know. They have to basically stay away from each other, do what they do. So then we're back to Pike and Spock there in the library. Spock finds out, I don't know if it's now or later, but whatever. He finds out that the Illyrians were trying to reverse their genetic engineering because they were wanted. Well, were wanted. My voice went funny then, didn't it? They wanted to join the Federation. So they were trying to find a way to reverse the genetic engineering so that they could become normal again. Not quotes normal. So that's interesting. So anyway, as we go on, there we go. There's a lot of talking. And then they decide to. Is this bit with Hemmer comes into sick bay? Yes, it is, right. Hemmer comes into sick bay, and he wants to do check the sick bay medical transporter. We find that Uhura were in her quarters asleep, and her two bunkmates, they got ill, and they were trying to absorb all this light. They had like a hologram going in the middle of the room, and Uhura were there, but she didn't get poorly because she was locked away in the dark in her little cubicle asleep, and it didn't affect her for some reason because of the dark. But why didn't it get her as soon as she wasn't in the dark? I don't know, but it doesn't really explain it much. It doesn't really explain what the hell this disease is. But anyway, as I was saying, Hemmer, where are we going now? Have I gone too far? Have we not gone far enough? There we go. Hemmer's checking the transporter. There he is. And Dr. Mabenga is not happy about it. He don't want him faffing about with the transporter, because we found out later on when the Enterprise was in space dock, Mabenga refused to have the medical transporter upgraded, because the normal transporters were all upgraded, but he wouldn't allow the medical transport to be upgraded, and we find out why later on. What's his face? Hemmer does a couple of tests, and it makes the lights flash, and he thinks, that shouldn't have happened. So Mabenga basically tells him to sod off out my sick bay, and so he does, and then we see him press a button. So I think he'd done something. I think he'd turned the lights on and off or something, just to confuse Hemmer. So he buggers off. So he's got away with it. We find out there he is doing the button. It's a good old green button with it, and there's a little circle on with a line, like an on-off switch. So they're nice to see, I must admit. Jelly bean buttons. So he didn't want the transporter faffed with. Meanwhile, on the planet, the storm's getting closer. And the sea, things... There we go. I've gone past it, haven't I? See if I can catch it. Catch it. Sorry. Is it gonna do it? Is it gonna do it? They see some beings come flying out of the storm. Whatever. There we go. Oh, here we go. So see these beings come out of the storm, and they think, "Oh, crikey, what's going on here?" And actually, I thought it was going to be like the Next Generation episode, Power Play. Remember when them entities took over Troy and Chief O'Brien and etc. And they lived in the atmosphere, didn't they, of that planet? And they'd taken on the the identities of Starfleet crew members from the USS Essex, I think. The old Daedalus class ship. I thought it was going to be something along those lines, but it turns out it's not. So they're down here, and they think these energy life forms are attacking them, but they're not. Let's move that back over there. Get you middled again. It turns out they're not attacking them. Ooh, crikey, what have we done? There we go. They're actually protecting them, because the windows smash. I don't know if it's going to show it. It might be a bit later on, actually, but it doesn't really matter. The windows smash, and all the storm comes in, and these energy beings, they like form a dome, or they surround Kirk and Spock, and protect them from the ion storm until it all passes. And you think, oh, very good, so they were nice energy beings, yay! Anyway, so go back to sickbay, and they decide that they're going to sedate all the people that have caught the disease, because they're going to do something, and I can't remember what. Oh, my, that was it. They're going to turn all the lights off. They're going to cut all the power, so that nobody, because Uhura was safe and sound in her dark bunk with the door closed. They think, well, we'll do that of the rest of the ship. So everywhere will be dark. So they turn all the lights off, and even the lights on the warp nacelles go off. Don't know why. Don't know why they've turned, because they're not, they're not windows, are they? It's the warp coils out that we see glowing. Well, I think that's what they are, but whatever. Number one, she's checking on the Illyrians, the computer, and the computer keeps telling it's classified, and she just says override, and the computer overrides it, so she must have clearance. Then she gets called away. This is checking on the Illyrians there, you can see, look. There you go. Can you see that? Illyrian Genetic Data Disease Control. That's what that says. So she's checking on that. Then she finds, the computer tells her, the computer voice, is it Majel Barrett? Are they doing like a deep fake voice for Majel Barrett? I don't know, because it sounds very familiar. I don't know. I'll have to look into that. Anyway, whatever. She gets called away. Something's happening somewhere in main engineering. That's it. Oh no, it isn't. No, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. In the transporter room, Hemmer, he's been affected. He's beamed up a portion of the mantle of the planet, and he's got it in a force field. It's not fully transported yet, so he wants to get close to it. But you think, obviously he must be ill, because remember, they're from a very cold place out there. Andoria's an ice planet, so for him to want to be warm is a bit strange. But it's just the light he's wanting in it. But he's blind, but, obviously he still feels the need, feels the sensation on his skin. So then he runs towards it, and, hang on, Una, I'm trying to catch the right bit. There we go. She phases him, and he just misses it, and she beams the thing back, the mantle from the planet back, and then she does something, there we go, eyebrow raising. She picks him up, throws him over her shoulder. I don't think that's her, do you? That doesn't look very much like Rebecca Romaine there. So I think they've got a stunt woman, with a fella probably on wires, that she throws him over her shoulder and just walks out with him. You see her walking about with him, and it looks very much like a dummy that she's carrying. But it's showing that she's super strong. You're thinking, why is Una? There she goes, like it's a dummy, isn't it? Why is she super strong? Either it's a dummy, or Hemmer's got a very bony ass. Do Andorians have bony bottoms? Maybe they do. So anyway, she's super strong. So she basically takes him to sickbay. Oh, back on the. Is this where we're going to see him get protected? See, they've made a barricade. Look with the tables. The alien life things, light beings are trying to get in. Is this where the window smashes? Yeah, and then they think they're getting attacked, but they're not. They're getting protected. there we go. They form a circle round them, and they're all protected, look. And then the storm, the energy from the ion storm, goes back out, and, they're saved. And it turns out that these energy beings probably were in fact the Illyrians. Something happened to them with their genetic modifications, and they got ill, like the Enterprise crew did. I still don't know how. I don't know if is it to do with the ion storm. I don't know if it explained it or what. I don't know. But this disease that makes people want to go into the light, it affected the Illyrians. But I think because of their genetic modifications, rather than killing them, they basically became absorbed by the ion storm and became, beings of energy. A bit like in Stargate, they ascended to another, not to another plane of existence, but to another form of life. But that's the upshot of that. And then we get to come on. Oh, yes. I think this is the bit where she's talking about... I don't know. No, that's later on, isn't it? That's later on. When I'm on about the transporter. That's later. He says he needs to find a way. He can't find, a cure. Because, they need antibodies, to find a cure. And obviously nobody's got antibodies for this disease. And he's feeling the effects of it, so they're going to have to sedate him as well. And as we go on, La'an gets affected. While she's doing this, meanwhile, La'an's behind her. She comes to, and she knocks out Nurse Chapel and legs it. So then they get an alert that the warp core is about to shut down. And it's La'an. She wants to blow the ship up and absorb all the light from the warp core. So, number one and La'an have a bit of a set to in engineering. There was a bit of a fight, bit of fisticuffs. Is it a cat fight? No, because they're headbutting and punching each other, so it's not a cat fight. Anyway. I'm not sure really what happens, because the warp core it says it's going critical. Here we go. It says it's going critical. So does the warp core go critical, or does she stop it? I don't know. But look what happens. Right, the computer said the warp core's going critical, and it's like 3, 2, whatever, and then we cut away, we cut away, and then we're back, and then. See, they're all okay now. The storm's passed. They get in touch with the Enterprise. They beam up in a minute. This is where Spock's telling him that the energy beings, probably were the Illyrians. So they beam back up, and everything's okay. Look, so. Did the warp core go critical? She just absorbed it. I don't know. It don't really say. We find out that number one is an Illyrian. Not from that planet, from another Illyrian colony, but she's been genetically modified. She absorbs energy, and the body basically mutates and creates, whatever it needed to cure her. So did she absorb all that radiation and whatever energy from the warp core going critical and, was okay? Or what? I don't know. Who stopped the warp core from breaching? I don't know. It doesn't say. Which is, that's a downer for the episode. I did quite enjoy the episode, but that's a bit of a downer. Because they don't explain stuff. Unless I miss it. Which is quite possible. Anyway, it turns out that because of what happened with number one, she created some antibodies to do all this stuff, and she was able to get to sick bay, and Nurse Chapel got some antibodies out, made a cure, cured everybody on the ship, and everything's hunky-dory, and everything's lovely, and the 1, and the 2, and the 3, and the 4. Sorry, that's a bad news reference. So anyway, so she's being very smug. Anyway, there. So we cut to La'an, and she's in their version of 10 forward. I don't know what they call it. In the rec room, I don't know. The forward observation lounge, I don't know, but it's basically 10 forward, isn't it? And she's eating some strawberries, and number 1 goes to talk to her, and she's not happy. She's not happy as La'an, because, you know, we know about her hatred of augments, and then we find out that number 1 is an augment. She's been genetically engineered. A bit like, you know, Julian Bashir. She lied on her Starfleet application. Well, Julian Bashir didn't lie because he didn't know at the time, did he? But his parents lied about him being genetically altered. And she did the same. You know, she didn't want people to know she was Illyrian. But wouldn't it turn up in a medical? I don't know. That she's, you know, not quite, you know, human. Would it turn up in a medical? I don't know. Obviously it didn't, because she's fine. But La'an's a bit miffed, because, you know, they've been friends for years, since she was a kid, basically, and she never told her, and she probably thought, you know, I better not tell her, because, you know, she knows how she feels about augments, so it's probably best she didn't tell her. But should she have done? I don't know. But they're still friends, and they share the strawberries. That's what they're doing. Then she goes to Captain Pike, and she tells him all about it, and she's going to resign her commission, and she's ready for any disciplinary action. She texts her. I mean, it's not communicated, is it? I mean, this doesn't have any, you know, significance, does it? Really? I mean, the original series, they were sewn on, weren't they? So it couldn't. When they resigned the commission, they couldn't rip off their sewn-on badge. But anyway, there she goes. She pops it down on the desk. What's happening with the fingernails there? Is that, what pattern is that on there? I don't know. Anyway. But Pike refuses. He rejects her decision, her request, I mean. Basically, he's not going to tell anybody. Or, you know, she's the best first officer in the fleet. So he's not going to let her resign. He needs her, basically. And she says, well, what about Starfleet? And he says, well, what they're going to do. He knows his future, doesn't he? So, to a certain degree. So, you know, he says, let me deal with that. So she's still number 1 for now. I mean, obviously, as we get to the end of the, you know, the series, she's not going to be number 1 anymore, is she? And, you know, what's going to happen with Lan and all that. Excuse me. Let me have a little drinky. But we'll see. She goes back to sick bay. Oh, yes, that's what happens. And she talks to Dr. Mabenga, you know, when it catches up. And that's when we learn that when Enterprise was in space dock, having its refit, that he refused to let the sick bay medical transporter to be upgraded. We found out why, because there's a pattern. There's a pattern in the transporter buffer, and we learn that it's his daughter. He's got his daughter in the transporter buffer because she's got some horrible disease that just left her with weeks to live. So instead of her dying, he's put her in the transporter buffer. Sorry, I shouldn't be laughing because it's quite tragic. But, you know, much like Scotty did in Relics, Next Generation episode Relics, he put himself and another fella in the transporter buffer on the USS Janolan for, 70-odd years. And obviously Scotty, being big and fat, took most of the power and the other fella died. His pattern degraded. Sorry, but that's just what happened. That's my theory. Anyway, so he's got his daughter in the pattern buffer, and so she doesn't age in the pattern buffer. As we saw, Scotty didn't age. but he's just got to, rematerialize her for a while every now and again, and then, beam her back into the pattern buffer. And he's ready, to face the consequences. And he basically says, it couldn't have lasted forever. What's one life, against, the whole ship or whatever. But in this instance, Una tells him, no, she's going to set up a dedicated power. Oh, pardon me. Where'd that come from? She's going to set up a dedicated power line from main engineering to keep the medical transporter, going. And that's that. And they're going to find a way to cure his daughter or whatever. And so he's all very, very happy about that. And he's all crying and stuff. Bit Discovery, crying. So that's that. And then, what happens then? Then he goes... Hang on, what's happening? Yeah, they do a lot of talking, don't they? I mean, I've told you the gist of what they've said, but, they do bang on. So they're getting all upset. So she tells him, that everything's going to be okay. And there we go, and he rematerialises his daughter and tells her a story, reading from a book that they've read loads of times, but, she still wants to hear the story. And basically that's it. He gets the last word. Then we cut to Una does a last, does a personal log. And she goes all on about this, that she's Illyrian and stuff. And then she does a Captain Sisko at the end. She basically admits to all the crimes. And then she says, computer, delete that last record. So... she does a Sisko in the pale moonlight, which will probably get people angry. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that gets people angry in modern Star Trek, but again, I've quite enjoyed this episode. It's not perfect by any means. And that's her saying, delete last entry. And then we go to M'Benga and his daughter. He's reading a story, and then the Enterprise leaves. There's the Iron Storm leaving the planet. I still can't remember what it was called. Something at 9. I can't remember. And the Enterprise, we'll watch the Enterprise swoop by. Look at that, isn't it cool? I must admit, the Enterprise is growing on me. Still a bit too dark, the hull plating, but there we go, off to warp. Nice to see that little flash. I just wish when they were in warp it would show the proper effect, but it don't. And that's it. There you go. That's your lot. So, you just heard that. That's my son who's just come barging in while I'm in the middle of a live show. Carry on. He says ignore him. Anyway, whatever. So that's it. That's the last. That's the episode in a nutshell. We'll get rid of that now. And we'll go back to his warp. Again, it was quite a good episode. I didn't mind it. See, Ed.
See, you can record me, look.
Well, yes, I can, but nothing. He's gone. Where were we? Again, I quite liked it. It's the characters actually that I think are bringing the stories up, because the stories are not exactly original, are they? We've got an Ion Storm. We see loads of them, don't we, in Star Trek. We've got energy beings. We've seen loads of them, as I've mentioned. We've got the crew getting ill. We've got augments. We've got the cure. Were a bit convenient, wasn't it? That was the word I was thinking of earlier on. It were a bit convenient at the end, wasn't it? That Una could just happen to save the day, but. I suppose that happens a lot in Star Trek and sci-fi in general. But, I'm defending it. I enjoyed the episode. I like the characters. So there you go. So I'm looking forward to next week's episode, which is called Memento Mori. So, until then... wherever you are I'm not gonna sign off now. No, we're still gonna talk about this episode. I've got to say, as I said, it's not an original story, really, is it? We've seen it a million times before, and people are going to pick at that. But Star Trek often, it often does retread old ground, and it's doing this again. So I'm not going to criticise it for that. I'm actually going to say I've still enjoyed it. So we're 3 for 3 so far. I've enjoyed all 3 episodes so far. It hasn't gone to pot as I feared it might. So we'll see how we go on in episode 4. Is this the one with the space battling? Or is that episode 5? No, I think this is episode 4, yeah. There's a big space battle in episode 4, I think, and I think episode 5 is the comedy one with Spock, which I'm not looking forward to. So anyway, so we'll leave it there. I enjoyed it. We're 3 for 3. We'll see what happens next week. So until then, wherever you are in the universe, look after each other. And until next time, I'll see thee.